What's up, guys? It's the Brazilian Bros with MACkiteboarding reporting from Kite Beach here at Bloberg, South Africa. We've got Table Mountain right behind us, and we are super excited to be with the kite designer legend, Damian Girardin. This guy has got decades of designing experience. Obviously, he is the lead designer for Reedin kiteboarding, and we are beyond excited to be here with him today to pick his brains about his background as far as designing kites is concerned, and to also talk about some of the brand new Reedin gear. So I'm sure a lot of people know you, Damien, and I'm sure a lot of people who watch this know about your background, but I wanted to get started with a little bit of your story. How did you get involved with designing kites to begin with?
I grew up windsurfing since as far as I can remember, so I was always in water sports, and turns out I was windsurfing in south of France, a city called Montpellier, where all the very first kiters started. I mean, it was after Bruno Legagnu that did it in like early mid-80s, but I'm talking like mid-90s, and I saw like guys like Raphael Sal, the F1 owner, and some of the other pioneer. They were like just in front of my house, and I remember we used to make fun of them because they couldn't barely make it work, but I got really to see them like hands-on right away, and like pretty quickly I got, Raphael came to me and he was like, dude, you want to try kiting? So I tried. Never really got into it that early on because I was also so into windsurfing, I kind of stick to it for a little longer. And at the same time, I was also eventually going to school for engineering. So I studied engineering, kept on windsurfing at kind of high level, but then kept on seeing, the kiting happen. And eventually I started kiting myself. When I was done with my engineering school, I did like a normal engineering job for about 2 months, and I was like, whoa, that's really boring. Franz already was starting a brand with a bunch of guys, and I'm like, oh, dude, you guys need a designer or an engineer? He's like, yeah, probably. And he gave me the number of the guy that was financing the company, and I started with that little French kiteboarding company with them. Did that for about 2 years, and eventually got a phone call from a bigger brand in Hawaii. And went there, and then started being the kind of brand manager, head of design for 16 years on Maui, where it was pretty fun because you're on Maui testing, designing, going to Asia, learning everything you need to learn about it. And so that's I made it short. That's pretty much how I got into it.
That's awesome. And I wanted to move sort of towards how you met Kevin, because obviously Kevin has been a friend and a somebody who's really influenced your life as well with the creation of Reedin. How is it that you initially met Kevin, and how did you guys come together for the creation of the Reedin brand?
So Kevin and I met when Kevin was kind of a kid. I was, it's easy, we're 10 years difference. I was 26, he was 16. I believe there was 2005 or 4. That was King of the Year on Maui. I was doing it, he was doing it. And that's the first time we met. And then the year after, we invited him over for a photo shoot. And that's the first time we actually get to meet each other. But, over the years, we kind of learned how to respect each other. He was a little kid at the time. He was very focused on his freestyling, getting as good as he can. And he was not yet really into believing that products could get any better or help him get better. But I was always all about designing product, making kites more fun, easier, better, like better chicken, better bar, better board. Like it's always been my thing. I love it's such a sport where like our gear is responsible for so much of the fun we have, that I've always been looking at it like, okay, how can I have more fun on the water if I do some better board or some better whatever, So we have that relation with him for all these years where like I mainly see him for photo shoots or for like promotional events. And eventually, he King of the Year comes back here. And he won the first one. I mean, we already know each other pretty well by then. He stayed at my house. I mean, we're kind of friends. But it's King of the Year, his second title, I think, where I've been telling him, Kevin, you gotta get on the bridal kite. Because I've been riding bridal kite, dude, I'm not going back to a sea kite. And he was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like these pros, they're very focused on what they're doing. And eventually he goes to a contest in Tarifa, I think, and Tarifa is blowing 60 knots, right? And typical Kevin, he only brought his 9 meter at the time a C-shaped kite because that's all he had, a 9 meter in his head. And he has to borrow a 7-meter bridal kite from the local shop. And he calls me that night and he's like, oh, dude, you're right. This is so much better for big air. I'm like, dude, I told you. And eventually, you know, that was it. That's when he got the spark of like, oh, actually, working on the gear, we can actually get better. And to me, that was kind of a spark of like, oh, I think he shifted something, you know? And I think the relation grew at that point where like, he looked at me with more respect for what I was telling him, and I also looked at him with more respect for like the fact that he was finally becoming someone that believed that gear could change his riding. So, you know, that's kind of started it.
And how has it been so far? You guys have obviously 3 kites starting off. 4 kites? Sorry, 4 kites, right? Started off with the SuperModel, right, then the HyperModel, the WhisperModel, and now the MasterModel, which we'll talk about all of them in a second. But how has it been so far, this whole experience with the brand? I mean, I see it as a massive success because a lot of people want to try Reedin kites. Like you said, it's a reasonably new brand as compared to some of the others, but there's a lot of really excitement around it at the beach. How do you see it so far?
Well, I'm glad to hear you seeing it. Well, the experience is, you know, it's been a lot of work from my side. The first 6 months before we launched, it was 6 months of like just me working in my little shed on Maui, 20 hours, sometimes even more a day, non-stop being in China for weeks on. And eventually, you know, I got the new bar and I'm super excited, you know, got the auto twist that no other brand had figured out yet. And like I like to say, it was a 20 years and 6 months project for me because everything was there, but I finally figured out how to make the auto spin without having a high V, you know, that was new at the time. So I was super excited about that. And then we got SuperModel design and I was really excited. Kevin couldn't try it because I was on Maui, hiding, testing it in the evenings, testing in places where no one would see me. So no one knew what I was doing. And eventually I got Kevin to try it. And I remember like he called me, I think it was about 4 p.m. South Africa time. So it was 4 a.m. my time on Maui. And he called me up and I had just gone to bed after work. So I couldn't answer right away. So he left a message and he was just like beyond stoked, you know, and I was like, yeah, that's so sick. So that was like, you know, the start. And then since then, yes, it's just been a lot of work still, but I'm lucky because it doesn't feel like working ever. Like I'm playing all the time. Like seriously, there's some stress time, I'm not gonna lie, but I love every part of what we're doing. I love, you know, we're doing a photo shoot with team riders. We're helping Parker get better on, you know, competing. I'm in China working all day, all night. I'm traveling the world, you know, to do whatever I'm gonna be doing, designing, being in Europe with the guys, the rest of the company. Every part of it, I love it. So it's easy to work hard when it's just playing, you know. So it's been a lot of work, but a lot of playing. And yeah, we keep on pushing, keep on growing. And I think one of the things that really is driving, at least my part for like product design, is really following my guts. And we've always said with Kevin that the idea was like making products that we would want to use. And it's always been what I do. Like I don't really look at other brands and try to copy. Because my theory is that if there's already a product out there, I don't need to make the same, right? I know some brands need to reach their numbers, so, oh, they have this, we're gonna make it. And to me, it's more like, oh, I wanna have something that's kind of, you know, unique for me because I know if it's unique, if I like it, I know Kevin's gonna like it. And if we like it, usually people also like it. So it's kind of like, we don't really look at the trends. We're just trying to like see what we believe in and then we go for it. So that's really what's been driving us product-wise, you know, like just, oh, I really want to have that thing, you know, and then we do it.
Absolutely. Right. Actually, this is right on track because it goes up with my next question, which is when people think about a Damian kite, like a Damian DNA or a Damian style of a kite, what does that mean to you? What is your style of kiting and what are kites and products that like are really make you stoked and like that probably are your signature designing as far as kites are concerned?
That's a good question. Thanks. I think my style of kiting of designing is probably similar to my style of kiting. I like to, first of all, I don't like to stay just on one discipline. You know, like being on Maui, you get waves for 6 months out of the year. You get a lot of wind all year long, so you can kite all the time. But you're going to be one day on a waveboard, you're going to be on the twin tip another day. You may be floating when it's really light, which doesn't happen that much, but still happens. But you kind of like, I like to ride all conditions, all kind of wind. I like to test kites in gusty winds because I grew up south of France, very gusty wind. So I always have that I always keep in mind like my kite's got to be as good as possible when it's bad wind. So I'm always making sure. And Maui is good for that. We got a lot of gusty winds. And like we discussed the other day, like I don't like Brazil to test kites because the wind is way too good. Everything works in Brazil. But if you have it working in kind of like gusty, shitty conditions, then it works in good conditions. So that's one thing I always focus on. And then my style, I think I like kites that are engaging, like kind of like, makes you feel like you're alive when you're kiting, that the kite's quick, reactive. That it yanks you quick out of the water. Like I like the big yank out of a kite. I like that it turns quick because it's gonna be fun for kite loops. I love doing kite loops. Always since I started kiting. Not quite, but as soon as kite loop showed up, I was on it, right? But I like the fast kites. I like to jump as high as I can. Like I think like every kiter we do, and I like riding waves. So I want a kite. I don't want to change my kite. And that's something that's always been in all our kites, to be as versatile as possible. It's okay to switch boards. And actually, I think in the future, we're not going to be switching boards anymore. Like I have something I can show you later that I think we don't need one board's going to do it all. Proper kite surfing, like I say. But it's always been kind of like the goal. Having said that, like you say, we started with one kite. The goal was like as versatile as possible. SuperModel does it all, still does now. You can take that kite in any conditions, give it to Parker. He's gonna do all his King of the Air tricks on it. Gonna come back to the beach, be like, whoa, that guy was amazing. I really loved it. And you give it to a less advanced guy, he's still gonna have fun. So that's the key. And then we expanded the range to Hyper, which was like really a high performance version of SuperModel to be still very versatile, but like, faster, even more engaging. And then we added Whisper, because Whisper, I've been spending a lot of time in Southern California, San Diego, and I'm like, I need a kite there too. So I wanted a kite that was fun for light wind, right? So this, obviously it's a different category. The light wind is a different category. And again, you can I ride wave on Whisper in San Diego. I ride flat water. So same idea. The kite does everything you want, but it's dedicated to light wind, right? And now recently we're just adding MasterModel to the range. And MasterModel, same thing. We kept the versatility in it, but there was something about spending time here in Cape Town, and you look at people kiting, and obviously the focus on big air. Like right here all day long, you got people breaking the close to 30 meters. Over 20 meters all the time. And the idea at first was kind of like, like I was talking to our guys and Kevin, and I was saying something with other things in mind, but at the same time, this was the goal was like, we need a kite that's going to be easy to jump for your average guy. You don't need to be a pro to jump 25 meters, or at least do you as high as you can and stay in the air. But at the same time, I always had in mind, I'm like, okay, Parker is definitely going to King of the Air this year, because I could tell his mind was set, his level had grown. I was like, I know he's going to qualify. And I'm like, we're definitely going to have a kite. We need to have a kite that's going to let him perform as high as possible. And then you're looking at the two things that we're like saying, like you want a kite that's for everybody, so it's got to be easy. But the pros also need an easy kite. Like when you and I, and we're both pretty good kiters, obviously, but when we do a kite loop, we're kind of maybe not the head upside down. The pros are doing it upside down. They need the same level of control an average guy is going to need to know exactly what the kite is doing. They need to believe that the kite is going to catch them. So if you look, a guy is really, really good and a guy is pretty good, we need the same thing in the kite. So in the end, like I said, I was kind of telling on marketing and internally, we want a kite for everybody, knowing that I wanted also the kite to perform for the pros. So in the end, that's what we got. And looking at Parker at King of the Air, I think we succeeded because, fourth place for his, second participation. That's pretty awesome. And you could see the way he was riding, the kite was performing so well. I remember I was not here during King of the Air, but Ralph was here. And Ralph called me up that night. He's like, dude, did you see how good Parker was riding? Did you see how the kite was performing so well? I'm like, yeah, I saw everything. So that's, I didn't answer quite the question, but the style, coming back, it's still MasterModel is pretty versatile. I can ride these waves on it also. It's not made for it, but the bar feel is it's quite connected. So you still have that snappy feel and that quickness in the turns. So all the kites have that in their DNA.